Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 37. As expected, today's focus will be on the further planning of the steel mill area. My tests did end up revealing a couple small hiccups which I hope to remedy in this video. These mostly revolve around the throughput of the cable cars, especially on the side of the coal mine. Using light cables was a bad idea, so we will switch the aggregate lines over to using the heavy towers and stations. We will also work a bit more on the central facilities, so they are a bit more future-proof. We just need to add a couple conveyor towers to hopefully ensure they can be expanded if the need arises. And at the end of the episode, we will get going with the part that is still missing from the area, namely the helicopter construction hub. We will need those around if we plan on keeping all those cable car towers in tip-top shape. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. Before we get going with the steel mill planning, we have a couple things we need to take care of. One of those is the low happiness in the new town. I did expect to see some morale issues thanks to the low housing quality, but not this early. To me, alcohol consumption is still non-negotiable. It can get out of hand real quick, and result in an impact on the health of the citizens if left unattended. But I will look into some kind of a religious building on the workshop. That remembrance hall from the last series might see a comeback in an episode or two. As a stopgap measure, I did place an autodrome, so people can drown their sorrows with a couple rounds around the go-kart track. We can also continue upgrading the streets. As long as we don't block access to things too much, it should be fine. Here, I did consider building a road depot next to the maintenance garage, but instead, I just ended up setting up the main building instead. It's been sitting empty for quite a while now, and the local vehicles are in need of some repairs. Next on the agenda was the RCO. We did encounter the problem of not having enough room to store all the reclaimed materials from demolition jobs. Lowering the amounts being delivered to 70%, and reverting the factory connection to being two-way should be enough to deal with the occasional track removal we need to do. Just for good measure, I also set the maintenance deliveries to be 70%. Just so I don't mix things up accidentally. With these tracks removed, we can put in the final ones. As it turns out, there was no need to remove the entire length. Those two smaller sections I designated for removal earlier would have been enough. I just assumed the angle between the two bridges was wider. Next up, those power issues we keep running into. We really need to nip those in the bud before they get out of hand. Hooking the network up to a second power source will help us coast for a little while longer, hopefully long enough to get a power plant up and running. As always, we need a power switch to be able to keep the central line going. And it's good that we will have the second source come in this far into the network. With such distances between the two connections, hopefully the load will be more spread out between them. The placement of that switch is a bit unfortunate. There is no real way to bring the cable pylons through all those tightly packed buildings. It will have to be moved in a second, but first I brought in the cables from the border. This one was real close, but the road didn't let me place the pylon. The switch have to be moved. I suppose it will have to be placed here. With the RCO storages sorted, I thought we would finally get rid of all these construction crossings today. Well, we will get back to the track removal in a bit, but we can get going with the steel mill in the meantime. First, let's take care of the coal conveyor towers. They are the light variety, and we need the heavy ones. And it's a really good thing they are not yet built. I encountered a lot of crashes while trying to get rid of the finished ones during my tests. I also decided to future-proof these things. Instead of waiting for problems to appear, we will build them with expandability in mind, and include a conveyor tower right from the start. If necessary, we can just build a second cable line going to the steel mill with that tower. Now, I think we might be able to deal with one processing center per cable line, so I didn't include a tower for the belt coming out of the station, but we will definitely use one for the way into the steel mill. And people are still quite glum. Get used to it. Morale will be pretty much stuck at around 50% for a while. Well, it is time to make the long journey to the coal mine. The heavy cables are a bit shorter range than the light ones, they sag a lot more due to the weight, so the distance between the towers will be a bit shorter than before. They also come with a bigger footprint than the light towers. Finding a suitable placement for them in this rugged terrain will be a bit of a hassle in certain spots. And I also managed to veer a little bit too far away from the other line, so let's try to turn ourselves back toward the destination. I think I have these cable towers down at this point. 3 steps of rotation will give me the most amount of turn we can get in one segment. Now, we can achieve a connection, except for the fact that the slopes are too steep to accept the tower. I'm afraid we will need the help of the terraforming vehicles in a second. And the connection is complete. Thankfully, the iron mine will be a lot easier. That place is much closer to the steel mill. Same as with the coal, we will add a conveyor tower, just to be on the safe side. I am tempted to get rid of that storage. We don't have one for the coal, so just for the sake of symmetry, I might remove it. I mean, technically it would be best if we had one for both, so we can have a nice big buffer of stuff waiting to be processed. But this place is super tightly packed already. I would have to rip things out now. Still, we will definitely not end up with the final plans today, so I still might decide to add one for the coal. And the iron is connected again. Let's see what's next. Well, I think it's time to build the passenger station. It needs to be as close to the center as possible. The iron mines cable car station for workers is just about doable if we build it in this spot. I suppose we could have the station crossing on the main branch. And since the distance is so short, we might as well just merge it with the mainline junction. I don't expect trains to ever queue on this particular branch. The garbage trains will just sit in the station, and the passenger service will be a quick in and out kind of affair. Well, this conveyor tower could be a problem. We need the side connections to be accessible, and the station is in the way. I also noticed that the tower for the iron is using the wrong kind of tower. We need the one that merges 3 lines into one, not what splits one into 3. Okay, let's try to place the station where it won't get in the way of the conveyor belts. But it still needs to be as close to the center as possible. Okay. This just might be doable. Now comes the part where we need to ensure the workers can reach all the important facilities, including all the cable car stations. First step, we need to upgrade the roads. And that pretty much took care of it. We only need to deal with the iron station, and we will have full coverage. Some of these will be extremely tight fits, some of them would be considered dangerously close to the rail tracks in real life. And they are in walking distance from each other. That's a relief. I ultimately decided not to do garbage sorting here. We have that taken care of at the processing center, so we can get rid of these container bays. The raw waste can just flow into the station directly, and the workers in the sorting facility will take care of it for us. This did mean that the cable car station had to be moved up a bit, so the factory connection can be reconnected. And the stations are still connected. Good. There was no progress on that demolition job I set for the RCO earlier. As it turns out, I forgot to deliver fuel to it. At this point, we might as well do the whole thing, and get rid of all the construction crossings we still have around. At this point, I was ready to start thinking about that helicopter construction hub. It should be somewhere in the middle of all this, and this little plateau looked like a decent place. But first, we need the terraforming machines and range. I guess the biggest obstacle will be the rail branch coming up to this place. We will need it to scale quite a bit of elevation to get here. If we are careful with the building placements, I think we should be able to squeeze everything in, even with the added footprint of the helipads. I think I will risk using this triple landing zone for the warehouse too. We need components in small numbers, so those pickups shouldn't get in the way too much. And now the aggregate storage. This one will have its own helipad. But to put it in where I want it, some extra groundwork need to be done first. Okay, I'll come clean. I did consider using that helipad for the gravel too. But I will remember how bad an idea that is, and place a second helipad. For this, we will need to use the yellow ghost image leveling, but the building is too big, so we need to do a bit of pre-flattening. And the storage wars are back on the TV. Time to get rid of some extra to make room. Now comes the hard part. We need a drop-off station for the gravel, and we have two issues. The road is too close, but we cannot really move it further out, because the space is at a premium. And second, the conveyor connections aren't too high up either, so we will need to include a tower, which only makes things worse. Let's see if we can trick it somehow. Maybe if we built the station on a small hill, that might raise the outlet high enough to go over the road. Hey! There is an inlet on this end of the storage. That was quite a fortunate turn of events. This should make the station connection a lot easier to do. And there it is. That will take care of the gravel deliveries and storage. Sadly, the alarm clock went off at this point, and I really didn't want to get too deep into planning more of this, so I just ended the recording here. The biggest hurdle left to overcome are the asphalt and concrete factories. Thankfully, we have a convenient conveyor outlet on the other side of the storage, So we can just bring out a line from there, split it with a tower, and feed them into the facilities. We still have some room left, so I think we can squeeze in the bitumen and cement storages too. And then, we just place the helicopter construction offices, give them the road-based machines they need to accomplish the building and maintenance tasks they are here to do, and we should be okay. At least I hope so. I never done helicopter construction since this last big update, so I can only hope they can do maintenance like the regular offices can. I can't see why they shouldn't, but still. As for workers, we can just place a helipad in the new town, and use that as a source of muscle to deal with the renovations in the future. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.